Welcome back to the Holmes on Holmes podcast. I'm Mike Holmes. I started this podcast to keep educating people on how to make it right, just like I've been doing for over 20 years on television. Here, you'll find raw, unscripted conversations with experts on building healthy homes, choosing quality products, safety at home, and more. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Holmes on Holmes podcast. And I am excited again to have Dr. Mike and Dr. Vic back here. Our last subject was so good that I can see an opportunity to really keep this going. I want to tell you a little story. I own Make It Right. Brad Pitt wanted to do the Make It Right Foundation. So it became an issue, but it wasn't an issue to me. They thought we were going to sue. I picked up the phone and I said, why don't I come down and help you make it right? I'm talking about New Orleans from Katrina. And I want to say this for a reason, because I went down there and I'm dealing with 13 of the world's best architects that designed the houses. I picked the one that I wanted to build because I'm the builder going, I don't like these ones. I like this one. I'm now dealing with engineers galore, some of the best builders out there, and we're in big meetings. And this was all about putting together a Category 5 hurricane-proof home that should be adopted for the rest of the lower ninth. And that was the whole strategy at this beginning. And even when I first got in the meeting, I remember someone sitting on the end of the table back there, and he said to me, oh, we brought in a Canadian, he's going to put the vapor barrier on the wrong side. And I looked at him and I said, actually, we're not going to use vapor barrier. I'm totally against that minimum code. And we developed a home that was so strong, it went to the World Green Show. And I had to go and talk about it, and other big people came to talk about it, that it fascinated everyone that we could put together a home that was affordable, that would take on a Category 5 hurricane. Wow. And it was healthy to live in. So that was big on me. So my point to this subject is that, and it leads back to you two, is that it's like I'm working with other intelligent people. They're working with me, and everyone has their own ways of doing things. You're an MD, you're an ND. I'll bet you two have learned a lot just working together over the past couple of years.
Absolutely. You know, in my practice for 35 plus years of family practice, I think I mentioned this before, it's just you get them to a point. You make sure they don't have underlying diseases, anything that's going to take their life, and it's going to make their life more miserable, organ damage, etc. Once you clear all that, they're not feeling good. Most of these people, they don't feel as good as they need to feel. And that's what I learned from Dr. Mike and the naturopathic world. That there are remedies, there are ways to diagnose things further and to treat them better, to make the person feel better.
Is this when it hits you that the two of you really need to be working together?
Absolutely. Like Dr. Mike has said in the past, some of my patients were going to see him and other naturopathic doctors, and they came back with positive feedback. And I knew that someday perhaps this might be part of my health world as well. And then one day we met because our patients were mutual to us, and got us together, and I thought this is what I want to do. So I don't do family practice like it did, but I'm doing this more consulting, seeing the naturopathic patients to make sure that their baseline, their foundation is healthy, that nothing got undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and then we build on that foundation, how it can even feel better, the ultimate they can feel.
And your 35 years, or 35 plus years of family practice has helped me grow my practice, because understanding what these diagnostic set points in family medicine, which is, you need to understand, like when people come to see me, they're coming for wellness, thankfully. They want to get better, they feel unwell. But unfortunately, there are certain circumstances that bring patients who are unwell, and their well sometimes gets them a little bit too sick. And their diagnoses, and there's lab tests, and there's diagnostic testing and scans and screens that we need to get in order to see the patient. And that's where his amazing capabilities come in to say, hey, and as a consultant, I approach him and I want to learn. I want to say, hey, this patient's coming in with this is what's going on. What is our approach here? Because I know where to take them this way, but initially we have to make sure that this patient doesn't have any cancer, any
underlying disorders.
He's like, okay, perfect. Yeah, no, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. When the patient comes back clear, then I'm free and clear now to take them. And it's almost like if you're in an airplane and you're on a runway. And it's like they're telling you, okay, you're clear to take off, right? You can take this patient to the next level. And that's what this team is all about. And it's all about communication, education, and the power of my almost 20 and his almost 35. And together we put it, and it's like 50 plus years of practicing to actually get patients well. And it's, it's ever learning. I mean, we're continually learning about patients and existence and parasites and toxins and detoxification pathways. So it's.
But I look to you, Mike, and you can build a beautiful home with all the stuff, but you know more than anybody if the foundation's rotten. It doesn't matter how pretty it looks over here, how solid it's here. So the underlying foundation, and then take off from there.
Well, it's not about making it look good, because you can put lipstick and mascara on a pig and make it look good, right? It's about making the pig better, right?
Yeah,
it really is. Building better, building smarter, and using better products. And okay, Dr. Mike, when you were younger, when did you start going to school? How old were you?
So 17 to university, you're talking?
Yeah, 17?
So University of Guelph when I was in my 17th, 18th year.
Okay.
I know this because everybody was drinking and I wasn't allowed.
You weren't allowed?
I wasn't allowed to drink. You had to be 19.
Oh, I wasn't allowed. I had to wait till I was 19 also.
So I fast-tracked, and back when they had OACs. We're dating ourselves now.
Grade 13?
The reason I asked this question was, like, did you go to McDonald's? Did you go to Burger King? Did you eat out fast food? Did you eat crap left, right, and center? And I'm going to assume as you started to get into the school, you started to see, I shouldn't be eating that. I shouldn't be eating this. You talked about in the last subject, corn oil. Corn has got to be the #1 farming product in the world besides grain. Right?
100%.
Because we use corn to feed the stock. We use that's a stock corn, right? It's not the corn on the cob that we normally eat.
Sure.
But ever since I started talking to you, I mean, I like corn on the cob, but don't eat corn. Don't use corn oil. Why?
So corn is one of the most genetically modified organisms, and it's not even called a plant, it's an organism on this planet. It's been heavily sprayed. So the seeds that are actually in corn are from Monsanto. So it's not that corn is bred to actually have antimicrobial actions within it that actually are going to kill a lot of aphids, let's say, for example. So it's innately going to be.
You're talking bugs.
Yeah, it's gonna get the bugs and get rid of the bugs and be clear so that there's less spray that has to be involved. And they thought that was a genius move. However, if it's gonna kill a little bug, but you eat a whole lot of it, what is it doing to you microscopically? It's eating you up as well. So the biochemical structure and the composition is an organism, and it's in fact not bioavailable to you. And it's not. Now you can still get. However, it's going to be very challenging. You can still get 100% certified organic corn. I think Eden Organics is one of the only farms in probably all of the U.S. Because what happens, and just you have to understand how corn
is that
reproduces.
When I look at a corn and it's black and red and not just all perfectly yellow like that egg?
Yeah, you want it to exactly. So, but corn. So when they reproduce, right? They rely on wind, right? So plants reproduce. Through reproduction, and they require wind. So if I have a farm and I'm spraying on my farm and you're my neighbor, but I'm using Monsanto's farm seeds and you're not using Monsanto farm seeds, you are now contaminating my organic crop, because my organic crop is now reproducing with your non-organic crop, and then they mate and you make this hybrid beast that has never been in society before, and then your crop now is contaminated. Do you understand? Do you understand how corn becomes...
I'm going to teach you something. Stormwater management control. You ever heard that? When we build a development, we have to build a development with stormwater management control. Oh. That is, it's all based in a 1 in 100 year storm theory. And that means that, and we've learned this over the years because we never did it before. So that one development with, say, 2,500 houses has to have its own stormwater management control. I want to relate that stormwater management control to farming, to nature's actual paths, streams, rivers, down to lakes. Amongst all of this are farms. And when heavy rains come in, they wash through the farms, they go into the creeks, into the rivers and into the lakes. So everything you're just talking about, these are things that I know of what we're doing to contaminate our own drinking water. Because all of that spray that farmers use, which will go from one farm to the next, just in stormwater management control, and never mind winds, we are contaminating absolutely everything. So in the last subject, I'm getting it that, we're we're breathing, eating crap. That's what we're doing. Wasn't like this when I was a kid because we didn't have all these extra stuff that we put into food, which always has recently made me concerned. As much as I love a big, oh my God, I go to Wendy's and I want that big bacon.
Oh, I used to eat Wendy's all the time.
I love the bacon.
I used to eat Wendy's. I used to eat McDonald's.
Harvey's.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But every time I eat it, I'm like, whoa.
You can ask my wife. We were together since I was 18, and she tells my kids this story. Because you said, I'm sure you used to eat McDonald's. I used to eat. She saw me eat a McChicken, 2 Big Macs, extra large French fries,
Quarter pound with cheese,
and a quarter pounder. Yeah, dude, they used to have that. We used to have the quarter pound. Remember, you used to have to make it like this. It was funny. Anyway, and then I used to have a milkshake, and then together. She's like, no human could ever eat how much you used to eat. It was unheard of. So yes, I was there. I was there. But hold on a second. I want to talk to you about this farming thing because I think you're brilliant and how I didn't know that this is where you were going to go with this, and that's amazing. So let's talk about wheat now.
Please.
Let's talk about wheat, and let's talk about hybridized. Let's talk about hybridized wheat. Hold on. So hybridized wheat is dwarfed wheat. So
hybridized.
So it's dwarf. So they dwarf it, right? So wheat. So because they don't want it to grow so long. So what's the mission? The mission is to feed the world with pennies, and the same thing as corn. This is the same topic we talked about with corn, genetically modified. Now we're just going to use it with wheat because it's a better story. Because you talked about the run water, the runoff, the streams, and what's happening. So how many times in a farmer's years, how many times would you say a farmer should till the land?
I believe it's twice.
Right? They till it in the beginning of the season and then maybe at the end. They till land now like 3 to 4 times a year. And what's the purpose? They dwarf the wheat so it doesn't grow in the full year. Because you plant the seeds.
So it grows 4 times.
Exactly.
So you get 4 times the amount.
Yes, and you get 4 times the amount. But how do you do that? Well, you have to genetically modify the wheat. First of all, to be inherently to all these bugs. Right, so then you also have to spray with the glyphosates, and then you put them in. So now you dwarf them, you make them shorter so they don't grow as long, and it's easier. And then you till them, and then you get the machines, and then you come back and you till them. And sorry, not till them, but you cut them, and then you put them in the machines, and you get them in the vats, and then you sell all this kind of stuff. So you can do this multiple times, and you can get twice as much of the yield. And where are they doing this? If you look at a map, and if you look at the glyphosates in the area, specifically Canada, look over places like Saskatchewan, where they have a lot of land.
What's glyphosates?
Glyphosates are the sprays. This is Roundup. You know what Roundup is?
Yes, I do.
It's a weed killer.
Yes.
So
they were forced to remove all kinds of bad stuff in it.
So Roundup, Monsanto, seeds, they try to say, hey, let's genetically make some seeds that's going to reduce the amount of spray. Okay, so let's make it something that it's not. Number 1. Number 2, now let's spray it with this special spray that's going to be, so now if you're tilling the land, what are you doing? You're hammering it down and flattening it, and you're making the water sit on top of the land. So when you till it multiple times, the land doesn't have a chance to come back up and be fluffy, and it doesn't absorb the water. So then what happens is the glyphosates that they spray to get this weed out actually goes in to the water containment systems, into the streams. So, and I've seen this on a study because I've been to regenerative farms. So the new future of farming is regenerative farming. Tilling less, meaning hammering down the dirt, not pounding it down. Because if you get dirt, if you understand dirt, you've built houses for quite a few years. You smash down dirt, you pour water on top, it runs off.
Right.
You get fluffy dirt, you put water on top, it absorbs. So what happens if you till it 4 times a year? The water runs off.
To my knowledge, you're only supposed to till once a year because it was no different than if you grow a crop of corn. Corn is so... It's so strong that they normally don't grow corn again the next year because it takes so much out of
That's
the earth.
right.
So they have to change it. And again, we're going in a different direction here. But it totally makes sense to me. It does. And the things that I don't think about, and I'm going to explain this really easy. I don't think about that because I am a bread eater. I freaking love bread. I don't eat so much bread anymore. Someone told me I got a little bit of a gluten. No different than asthma, no different than allergies. Have we seen a rise in gluten?
Insensitivity.
Celiac. You're talking about celiac gluten allergies.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I didn't know anyone that could be so sick from eating bread, so sick from eating cross-contaminated foods, or for even allergic to lobster or seashell fish. I'm seeing a rise in gluten. I call it gluten. You call it
Gluten allergy. It's a gluten allergy. Yes, you're right. Celiac, gluten allergy, celiac disease.
People that are diagnosed with a lack of the enzyme to break it down can develop a celiac disease. That's the end point. But most people are finding more and more are gluten insensitive.
Is this because of the changes we made over the years?
For sure. It has to be because as time goes on, we see more of it.
It's not the same bread. You can leave the bread on the shelf and it'll stay there and it won't rot. That's not the way bread is. Bread goes moldy after 1 or 2 days, right?
Right.
Historically.
Right. And speaking of mold, holy cow, we can go into so many different
So in
angles
terms of, let's talk about the gluten thing though. How many people have you, I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of people that go to Europe. Let's talk about Italy. They go to Italy, they eat pizza, pasta, bread. They're not bloated. They don't gain weight.
Why?
They come and then if they eat that same diet when they come here, what happens? They're bloated. Their digestive tract's a mess. They don't feel well. They gain weight by the day, literally, and they're up. Let's say 10, 15, 20 pounds. Let's say whatever it is. So what's the difference?
I was told the flour is different in Italy than it is here.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. But I'm going to tell you, I have been to Italy in the last 6 years, probably 5 times, and I notice that, oh my God, the pasta's so good. The bread is so good. And I don't get bloated like crazy.
You experienced this then, yes.
So you actually experienced what I just spoke about.
Yes.
This is organic.
And this is because...
We didn't talk about this before
It's because, no, this is because they're growing it differently.
It's against the law in Italy or parts of Europe to have those additives, those pesticides. It's against their laws. Here, it's against the law not to have.
No different than the stuff they put in the wine to ship it across down to Canada. That's the stuff in the wine you're supposed to open your wine, let it breathe for an hour to dissipate the. What is it they put in the wine?
The bisulfates?
Sulfates.
Yes.
Yeah. So they put in the sulfates in the wine so it doesn't go bad when it's on the ship and it's moving back and forth because wine's supposed to sit still. I'm becoming a big wine connoisseur, much like you.
Bravo.
We're gonna have some nice wine too. I got to tell you. I want to get into the subject.
And there's a difference between good wine.
Oh, I know.
And poor wine.
Yeah,
like you just mentioned.
We were in Italy, and Anna drank some red wine, and she can barely drink 2 glasses of wine. She was drinking the wine all night. She didn't get drunk, and she woke up the next day going, "That was the best wine I've ever had."
Yeah,
it was a €3 bottle.
Right.
Here I've got $500 bottles, and she can't drink it. I want to get into food. I don't think we pay enough attention to food. I really don't. Anything I'm learning is that, okay, I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't eat that because my body's telling me, and we forget to pay attention to my body, right? We all do.
We want the burger. We want the Wendy's.
Yeah.
We want the triple.
Then it gives me gas, and then the room stinks. It's terrible. So once I start eating good, that doesn't happen. There's no bad smells. There's no ton of gas. And I think that I'm learning that I'm starting to pay attention to what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I'm not sure everyone does that. What are some of the greatest foods we could eat? Do I have to eat just vegetables?
That's a very good question. So first of all, the point you have to think about, and for anybody that wants to get themselves well, is you gotta think about the theory of we are what we eat is no longer a thing. It's we are what we eat that has eaten. Now think about that for a second. Because we are what we eat. Okay, that's a general statement, but it's not true. Because if I eat a cow that has never seen a strain of grass and has only been fed the corn that we just talked about, that is contaminated, that has been genetically modified, that is rich in glyphosates, that animal now is full of toxins that we now have introduced into our body, that we now have to detoxify, that we now have to have a lot of gas, a lot of bloating, and we're trying to wonder why. Now let me ask you this. Should a cow eat corn? A cow should never, and never would even touch corn in its entire life. And these cows are getting diabetes.
They eat grass.
That's all they
Or
eat.
they're supposed to.
That's all they're supposed to.
Grazing
Give them a graze.
fields, you know?
They'll be your lawnmower.
So AAA, if I buy AAA, it could be corn fed.
It's all corn fed. It's all corn finished and corn fed.
Why is it so good?
And so because here's what society has now come down to. We're down to taste. What tastes good? And this is where the problem lies with why we're getting the gut issues and why we're getting the bloating. Because if you're breaking down what things taste, then you're going to modify them. You're going to you're going to put more preservatives, more flavor. And in fact, from what we're speaking about, flavor has come down to fat. And we want the fattiest flavor. And the flavor, and to get the fattiest marbleization in the meat,
Is to fatten them up.
And how best can you fatten out a human, a cow, or any other individual, animal for that matter, is you give them liquid sugar, which is corn. And what does that do with the animal? It puts them in a diabetic state. So they become more diabetic. And with diabetes, you get more chronic infections. And more chronic infections.
Immune system.
And more chronic infections, now you have to feed antibiotic to the animal. So now you're putting chronic antibiotic feed, and now this is what, now they're saying hormone-free. They're like hormone-free food, because back in the day, they're like, oh, these animals, we're feeding them corn. They're getting diabetes. Let's just give them antibiotics. Now we're realizing we're killing the human microbiome even further by consuming an animal that has been fed antibiotics, that we're consuming an animal that has been fed fattening foods. Because if you give a cow, because let's face it, let's picture we're the farmer and we want to get the most bang for our buck for that cow. How are we going to, if we fatten up that cow, we get more money.
Well, you pay per pound.
We get more money. So a skinny cow ain't going to feed my family.
It's gone through the roof.
A skinny cow ain't going to feed my family. But if that cow just eats grass, it's lean, it's beautiful, it has no health problems, it's going to live a long life. But if you're the farmer, do you really, and with all due respect for the farmers, I mean, I deal with more regenerative farmers, guys who are doing more grass-fed, grass-finished. They love these animals. But for the most part, the farmers doesn't really care if this animal lives for a year or 2 or 5 or 6, right? They don't care. They want to slaughter the animal, hurry up, get it back, and let's get it fat.
Everything's about money today.
Right? And so this is where you get the flavor. And this is like even Wagyu. For me, Wagyu beef is absurd, because it's like, let's put more fat into the system. I'm not against fats. I'm not against fats. I like fats. There's good fats and then there's bad fats. When an animal is fed, for example, a friend asked me yesterday, say, Dr. Mike, is that a ribeye steak? Because he saw me eating my steak. I said, no, I don't eat ribeye steaks. He's like, why don't you eat ribeye steaks? I said, I would never eat a ribeye steak unless it was exclusively grass-fed or grass-finished. And he says, why? I get these questions all the time when I'm having dinner, just why aren't you eating that corn, or why aren't you eating that? And the question is simple. Because the marbleization of that meat is going to be more pro-inflammatory. It's more omega-6 fats. Omega-6 fats are more pro-inflammatory. They're going to cause more inflammation. So you definitely want to consume more grass-fed beef. And if grass-fed beef, it's more anti-inflammatory, and that animal has more omega-3s. So the omega-3 to omega-6 ratios in our bodies is higher on the omega-6 because people consume vegetable oil, canola oil, corn oil. They're eating the animals that are fed corn. And this becomes, so now our pool of omega-6 to omega-3 becomes higher in the omega-6. So we become more pro-inflammatory beings. And then it becomes challenging for us, because now we got to get these people out of more pro-inflammation. And instead of taking Tylenol and Advil, we want to get them more anti-inflammatory diets and lifestyle. Naturally to lower inflammation.
Can this help raise blood pressure or cholesterol?
100%.
No.
Inflammation leads to plaque formation, which leads to tired pipes, arteries, the Bernoulli's principle, the pressure goes up. So you have plaque formation because of inflammation.
It is an inflammatory condition. Heart disease is a pro-inflammatory condition. This is where I did my thesis statement on. This is where my pride came in when I first came into practice. This is why I became a nutritional scientist. I did it because, like you mentioned, right in the beginning of the show, you're like, I'm sure you used to eat something. I used to eat Doritos and drink Coke. Are you kidding me? Coca-Cola and Doritos were my thing. That was it. That was the truth.
That's bad for you.
Terrible. But like you said, when I hit my first nutritional class, I was 19 years old. That was the first time that I was able to go to pubs and stuff. But it was the only class that I actually did not miss. And I sat there in the front row and I looked at Dr. Bruce Holub, who was my professor. And I looked at him and he was teaching and he was talking about omega-3s. He was talking about health. He was talking about healthy snacks. And he was talking about Eggo waffles are terrible. You should throw them in the garbage. They're no good. You need to eat more wholesome foods. And he put up some pictures of like flax seeds and Anyway, I was mesmerized. It changed my life. More than half my life I've been dedicated to eating healthy and heart healthy. My family has been plagued with heart disease. I have my family immediately from my dad's side. We're talking about heart attack, plaques, arteries, high blood pressure, hypertension.
Aren't we seeing this everywhere?
We're seeing this everywhere. We're seeing it every single day. And so people look at me and say, hey, how come you're not a part of that cohort? And so, I had a friend of ours reach out to me. He was a cardiologist. And he said, hey, you got to get tested. It's in your family. This is something you can't beat. You can't beat heart. The plaques in the arteries, you can't beat.
Did that become a challenge to you?
It was challenging to me because when somebody told me that, it was almost like you question it, right? It becomes challenging. You start questioning yourself. I said, is it the science? Is it the actual truth? And you start playing with you. And physicians, they care for the health of the patient. Family history is how we look about what's going to happen to a patient. We look at a patient's brother or sister. That's going to tell us that's the best duplication of what we can think of what's going to happen to a patient. When somebody says, I have an older brother and he has heart disease, it's like, we're looking at that. It's more than the father.
Because that's the family you're in.
No, because you're more genetically similar to your sister or brother than you are your mother or your father. I mean, we look at trends in medicine, right? This is where we look at trends and we look at what happens. But when you look at that family tree and you know that that patient has heart disease on their side, you have to rule out the diagnostic tests and rule out heart health, coronary artery disease, cardiovascular disease, heart attack, arterial sclerosis, atherosclerosis. We're looking at apolipoproteins. But the point I'm trying to make is that I disagree with the genetic thing because we are dealing with an inflammatory condition. And if you can rule out or just completely ward off inflammation, you are going to live longer.
So in simple science, you're telling me if you're bloated, you're eating the wrong stuff. Is that what you're telling me?
100%.
It's not natural to be
And
bloated.
again, everything's, you said it, Dr. Vic, if your veins are inflammatory or inflamed.
You're forming plaque, and plaque makes a narrow artery or narrow pipe.
And you're going to have
the
high blood pressure.
Bernoulli's principle, pressure goes up. Sorry, I throw a little physics in there, but yeah.
I know, but then all of a sudden I got to go see a doctor. I got to get blood pressure pills, cholesterol
Right. So we're
pills.
fixing-
I'm against pills.
Of course, we're masking the problem. The problem starts with the plaque formation and inflammation. So our bodies were not meant to be so inflamed. Our immune system gets turned on too many times these days, in the old days. When the immune turns on, that's inflammatory reactions happen. All those cytokines, all those chemicals involved in inflammation causes plaque formation. So we should be inflamed only when we need to be, when I have to attack an organism. But our immune system, autoimmune diseases, we're calling them now, there's too much of that going on, too much inflammation in the body. So why should we trigger it with certain foods? We have to be careful. Don't turn on your immune system when you don't need to.
Is that part of insulin? Talk of insulin that your body...
Insulin. I think you're talking about insulin resistance, heart disease, and how insulin resistance can actually lead to heart disease as a result of the rise of blood sugar, which can
Blood
actually
sugar is what I'm talking about.
Yes. So high insulin metabolic syndrome can lead to cardiovascular disease. As a result of having high insulin levels, your blood sugar will not get normalized, and then high blood sugar will actually cause more pro-inflammatory conditions and lead to heart attack or stroke.
Does this mean I can't have any bacon?
Bacon is great.
It's good?
Bacon is great. So as long as that animal's a regenerative farmed animal. So as long as that
Where that meat come from?
What we are what we eat that has eaten.
Whatever the pig is eating.
If you're getting a certified uncured organic pig, and that pig is only fed acorns, let's say, for example.
Acorns?
Well, like if we talk about What's the most expensive prosciutto in the world? You know, the one from Spain.
From
The Spain.
Parma.
But well, Parma, yes. So the Parma, where they make the Parmigiano, they also make the Parma, which they make the prosciutto. But it is still not the most expensive. I think Spain has that really big leg of pig that's really higher quality. But yes, just like Parma, they feed it acorns.
Acorns.
That's all it eats.
I was brought up that pigs eat
Anything.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
They're hungry.
Again, if you are what you eat that has eaten.
I'm seeing in all of the...
And they cure it, right, Mike? They cure it
yes.
with salt.
Yes. And that's okay.
And is salt okay? I'm asking you. What do you think?
Well,
is salt
I was
good for
told
you?
too much salt is not good for you, but in the right order, your body needs salt to help
sodium.
hydrate your...
Well, it helps electrical signals between the nerve endings.
Here we
Yes,
go with
sir.
electrical.
Yeah, it's an electrolyte. So sodium, you can't live without sodium. You can't live without... Too much of a good thing is a bad thing in general. So salt, high salt in content allows water to stay in the arteries and veins, increases the blood pressure. So it's an osmotic phenomenon. So the more salt, the more water follows the salt.
But let's talk about what salt, Doc.
Ah.
What salt, Doc? What salt?
I'm going to say
Are we going to
sea
talk?
salt.
Yeah, we're going to talk about sodium chloride, which is a synthetic compound
You're
that they make in
talking
a
about
lab.
that white...
because when you make it, when you preserve sausages, prosciuttos, and
like
little,
they used to.
well, like what they, you mean how they preserved it, like they used in Parma, because we're talking about Parma. They do it the old school way that they've been doing it for thousands of years. Parmigiano Reggiano has raw dairy, salt, and they sit it in a vat and it just cures itself. And because of the salt content, it cures and it kills. It does not need to get pasteurized. Why? Why is that? Because that salt content is actually deteriorating any potential pathogens that are growing. But now, industrially, we want to speed up things. Whenever we speed up things, we pasteurize cheeses. We then add synthetic salts quickly. We need to add a lot of, and these salts, sodium chloride, will cause your kidneys to become overworked, increase your blood pressure, and then cause your cells to be overworked. And this will cause weight gain, all this kind of stuff. But if you're dealing with a really very notable Parmesan from Parma, the prosciuttos, very notable place, they're using natural salt, then this is not going to be a problem. And I talk about this to a lot of our patients. Celtic sea salt has so many minerals, right? And it's not just, hey, everybody was on this Himalayan sea salt. It is a natural salt, but we got to be careful where we get the sources from, right? There's also Malden salts, which are natural from England. And these salts, which are naturally occurring, are the salts. Now, albeit, there's talk about heavy metal contamination. There's talk about toxicity. Like I said, you're going to get toxins everywhere you go. But the synthetic salt is what you really got to work and watch out for.
We got mercury in salmon.
Which never
What
used
the
to
hell's
be.
going on here?
Which never used
You
to
know,
be.
mercury is really not good for you.
On that note, Dr. Michael agreed. We're doing these full blood panels on patients that come in. Invariably, many of them are high in mercury level.
No way.
It's like, and the patients say, wait a minute, how did that happen?
I eat healthy. I eat fish.
Yeah. You know, it's mercury. We see it, zinc's normal, copper's normal, the other elements are normal. The mercury invariably is always elevated.
That's it. I'm moving to Italy. I think that's the answer. I got to move to Italy. I'm going to eat the food, drink the wine. Sardinia?
Well, parts of Italy, you know.
But what this does is makes me actually nervous because, okay, I never worried about what I ate ever. Why? I've been a healthy guy. All my life I was healthy. And all of a sudden, shit, I got heart problems. You know, and then all of a sudden I got a little bit of high blood pressure. That got nothing to do with my world, right? But I got a little bit of this, I got a little bit of that. I find out I got a little bit of high cholesterol. I don't want medicine. What do I need to do? Just to keep it down to normal, watch what I eat, drink lots of water, don't drink too much alcohol. Food, I've got to now pick. I've got to read. I'm learning this to read what's in the food before I buy it.
The label, yeah.
Because I love pizza. And pizza's not good for me right now unless I go to Italy, right?
Right.
I'm learning.
Like Pulsates, yeah.
So you want to look at, first of all, with your cholesterol and with patients who have cholesterol issues. First of all, they want to talk to their doctors and their medical professionals before taking on any things. And anything that we discuss, of course, in this, they need to talk to their medical professionals.
Please,
It's
yes.
important.
Always.
Yes.
Oh,
Let's make
but
that
I don't
statement.
want to take pills.
But for the
Right.
most part,
The statins,
for the
yeah.
most part, if we had to assess a patient, we don't look at just the cholesterol. No, sorry, I was saying cortisol, but we look at cortisol too.
Well, that's another thing. Yeah.
It's another marker we look at because that's a stress hormone. But for cholesterol, speaking about that, we don't want to look at just the total cholesterol as being a problem because that's not the problem. What we want to look at is the substrates, are the lipoproteins. So the subcategories of cholesterol. So something like HDL cholesterol. What is your HDL cholesterol?
the
The
good
high
cholesterol.
density lipoprotein. That's HDL. We in medical school they think about it as the hero. H for hero.
I know good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. Is there anything else?
H is the hero. HDL. LDL is the lousy cholesterol. So that's the loser. Right? And H is the hero, so the good, the bad. And then we have the ugly. And we'll talk about the ugly in a second.
There's
the
ugly.
good, the good, the bad, and the ugly? That's a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
Sure is, sure is. By the way, can this may be too much detail. There's only one cholesterol. It's packaged differently.
That's right.
The HDL molecule goes around and picks up the excess to bring it back to the liver to break it down again.
Mm-hmm.
The LDL molecule gets the cholesterol produced in the liver and puts it to where it's needed because we can't live without cholesterol.
That's
if you had
right.
no cholesterol, you would die. Cholesterol makes up the walls of the cells. We have billions of cells.
Testosterone.
It also is a precursor of vitamin formation. So cholesterol is good, but too much of a good thing could be bad. There's that concept again. So it's packaged differently. And so the HDL molecule goes around and scavenges and cleans up. So the higher HDL, you're cleaning the arteries, the plaques better. Higher LDL, you're putting too much cholesterol where it doesn't need to be. Because all the cells have it, and I'm going to put it in the walls of the arteries where it doesn't need to be.
Well, how the hell do I eat? Because all I'm hearing is it comes in as cholesterol, it goes out, because it's running through my body, and then can become bad cholesterol.
Well,
Is
that's
that
where
right?
yes, that's where. Well, yeah, it's packaged. Yes, the molecules respond to how much is needed for cleaning or for transporting it to the cells. So it's not the cholesterol content of the food because you'll see zero cholesterol or very low. This is where we have to watch. Fat is good, but too much fat helps absorb cholesterol that's in certain foods. There's got to be limits on
Is
that.
there different types of fat?
You want good fats? We talked about that in a sec. So, a couple things. You don't want to inundate, exactly what Dr. Vic just said. You don't want to overburden your liver. That's the key. Your liver, first of all, you only have one, and you better love it. Love your liver. It's important.
Well, my buddy
The vital
Frank's in the hospital. My electrician again. It's okay. You okay?
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. My electrician's back in the hospital. Just got a second liver. He's not in good shape.
Transplant,
I'm really worried about him. But yes,
You got one, you got to do your best with it. So if we're going to continually toxify it without detoxifying, then you're going to be at a problem. And this is where in cholesterol is metabolized at the liver. It's important. It's at the liver. So if your liver is too busy taking out alcohol because it's trying to save your life because it's a toxin, or too busy trying to take out some other toxins, well then cholesterol is going to be a side note. And your cholesterol is going to go up. And maybe your biochemical processes are not intact. So just to look at cholesterol on a patient, we do, and we pay very close attention, but we look at other factors. Lipoprotein little a, lipoprotein B, which are really bad cholesterol markers that actually tell us what's going on in your arteries. We had a patient that came in, we checked their lipoprotein B, they were elevated, and we told the patient, listen, you got to go get checked, and we get some scans, and lo and behold, they found a clot in his leg. If we didn't find any plaques and we didn't know, and it's like, look, we're not trying to scare you here, but we want to make sure, so we send him to Dr. Vic and use his expertise, and we say, look, I want to help you. I'm going to break out some of these clots.
You could tell this out of their blood.
Yep, the inflammatory markers. That's the lipoproteins he's talking about are part of the inflammatory process. High markers.
That's
high
the ugly
inflammation.
one that we talked
So we found found a clot thing that wasn't causing symptoms yet. Wasn't in a bad spot to cause symptoms. We wait for symptoms. It's too late. We have to find these things before.
So if you have a clot in your leg, lower leg, like you're telling me,
Sure.
can that give you a stroke?
Hold on, it's not a clot.
Sorry.
They're plaque formation.
Plaques.
So it's a
Yeah,
build
be
up,
careful.
a
Yeah,
build
sorry,
up
excuse
of
me.
plaque.
I'm not talking about vein clots. That's clot. People talk about
Because if you
vein
get a
clots.
clot that's deep vein thrombosis that can go to your lungs called pulmonary embolism, you can die.
So we're talking about plaque formation in the artery. The arteries bring blood to the cells. So let's talk about that plaque formation. He had a lot of plaque in an artery that if it got worse, then he could start having cramps and symptoms of lack of circulation.
I heard some people could be high in levels of plaque on their own. Is that true? in their body.
A lot of plaque along the
What
walls.
do you mean on
arteries.
their own?
On their own, they just, for whatever reason, generate more
genetic.
plaque
Yeah.
than normal.
Well, it's not for no.
No?
It's not for whatever reason.
There's reasons.
There's always reasons.
Reasons they can't feel.
They're either they're dumping too much calcium, they have too much oxalates, their uric acid's elevated, their lipoproteins are their
High
diet.
inflammation. Yep.
It's inflammatory markers.
I keep hearing inflammatory.
Yeah,
It's inflammation.
Everything is about inflammation.
Everything is inflammation. Every illness is dropped down to inflammation and has to do with the mitochondria being blocked and inflammatory cascades not being sort of looked at.
Inflammation should be part of the defense system, but when it's tweaked and called upon too much, it causes other problems.
When it's overstimulated.
So our
exactly.
immune system gets triggered like an infection. The immune system comes to play. It kills that organism. It uses the inflammatory process. In fact, when you wrench your knee, inflammation goes to heal, so you get inflammation. But when inflammation gets turned on all the time, it causes problems. So we have to find ways, markers that we look for before people have these symptoms. Because at a subtle level, you could be having inflammation in your arteries and you don't even realize it until it forms the plaque, until it gets bad enough to feel it.
But let's talk about why and how 1 in 5 people are triggering their inflammatory cascades in their body. Why is the inflammatory markers on high alert?
What's triggering them? What is triggering them? Yes.
It's called MCAS. MCAS. This is really big. So for those of you listening, if you're probably ill, you're not feeling well, you most definitely, and maybe you're foggy, you don't have a lot of energy, your inflammatory markers are up, it's called MCAS. Okay? Mast cell activation syndrome. This happens as a result of a chronic infection. This happens as a result of chronic exposure. This happens as a respect to COVID or long COVID. Or
Like having a flu.
pretty much. And this causes an increased histamine response or cytokine response, so it gets released. And this is an inflammatory storm that happens. And how this happens, or even chronic exposure to mold. Believe it or not, it's a big thing. Living in mold, I'm sure you've been into a lot of moldy homes and took people out of their homes.
I can tell you we breathe approximately 18,000 spore counts of mold per cubic meter of airspace outside every single day. Our bodies have become
Exactly.
natural to breathing that.
That's right.
It's acceptable.
That's right.
It's when you go into inside a zone that has more
Confined space.
spore count.
Yep.
And it could be 10 times that. And if it is, here's the problem. I'm sure you're going to tell me this. The irony of it all is mold will give us what? Medicine, right?
Right. Yeah, okay, but penicillin.
Penicillin.
Yeah.
But if you get mold in your lungs and it grows a mold factory, penicillin will not help you. You will die.
Yes.
Yeah, antifungal then, but
You will die.
Your lungs will be consumed.
Yeah, once you get the mold inside your lungs, you're finished here. So that's not going to work. So these are things that I do know, and then we can. What I love about this, we can keep combining my world to your world, which is my world, my body, and see all the differences. No different than grass fed, and I'm talking about the stormwater management control because I'm listening to you, and that water's running across the grass that they're eating. So we really actually do have to pay attention to absolutely everything, which is scaring the freaking hell out of me. I'm going to move to Italy. I'm going to do it again. That's it. I'm
That's
done.
the second time you said it, Mike.
I'm done.
Third time. That's
I got
it.
everything I need. I'm learning that I need to look at the food, that I need to pay attention, that I need to listen to my body, that my stomach's upset. And you just said it. If you're fog-minded, you're not feeling well, you could have some sort of an infection. I'd said it short words.
100%. We got to look at the environment too. We got to look at the environment. Where are you living?
How about radon gas?
Where are you living? How's the environment affecting you? The number one symptom I think we get, and we talked about this earlier as well, is we talked about acid reflux. Somebody eats something, causes their stomach to become inflamed, or they feel a burning sensation. Mm-hmm. Right away, everybody thinks they got acid reflux. Is that acid reflux, or is that a histamine response? And today, what is everybody eating? They're eating a lot of rich foods that are rich in histamine and avocados, which I'm not a fan of.
Okay. I'm told avocados are completely healthy with
They have a healthy fat.
and running down, and I heard a healthy fats, and then running down the rabbit hole of YouTube, I saw that after 60 you should not eat avocados.
So, and it's funny because you'll get confused because you'll watch Instagram and you'll see YouTube videos and you'll see men in their 60s eating avocados and eggs every single morning. And you think it's good. I love the eggs. I'm not a fan of the avocados, just like what you heard of, but every person is different. Avocados are very healthy. It's a good fat. Your body's good. However, it's a very high histamine food. And because we are dealing with a lot of people with this MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, which is a pro-inflammatory condition based on their environment, toxic mold, exposure, triggers, you know, whether it's infections or subacute infections,
histamine.
It's a histamine response. So if you take an avocado, you'll actually put yourself into almost an allergic state or a pro-inflammatory state that your body's going to feel worse. Your heart's going to start palpitating. You're going to have probably vomit, nausea, gas, bloating, and you're going to be like, what the heck? I eat avocados. I thought they were healthy for you. And I see this all the time. Or maybe your gallbladder can't handle it because it's so much fat going into that one organ at once, and you can't secrete the bile.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a healthy fat.
I'm wondering, could it be dependent on where the avocados were grown or are grown, where we're harvesting them from? Like you said,
I think organic avocados are the most important, yes, because they are heavily sprayed. And then it is a part of the clean 17 versus the dirty dozen. The clean 17 meaning that it has a hard porous skin, but if it is still sprayed, you're cutting it, it's still getting to the internal core. So yes, however, you can't set aside the fact that avocado is a very high histamine rich foods.
Explain histamine to me, please.
Okay, so histamine, we need it. Dr. Vic
part of the
mentioned
inflammatory process.
you need
released by these mast cells are a type of white cell.
White blood
we have
cells.
white cells defending us, so it's released during an activation of the inflammatory process
of the immune system. So what the problem is in society today, our immune systems, instead of fighting off the cold that you got from your friend or your partner, we're fighting off infections that we otherwise shouldn't be seeing.
No way.
And our immune system is gone rogue. Our immune system,
triggered.
It's bombarded with the chronic infections, the chronic detox. Again, this is back to the liver not detoxifying, not being able to clear out the toxins, and it's staying in our body, or the chronic exposure to mold that you breathe into your nose. How does mold get in? It gets into your nose, gets into your sinuses first, and you hear it all the time. I've been congested for 22 years. And you're like, ooh. That's a red flag. So it stops in the nose. Their nose has saved their life because it didn't get to their lungs. Because once it gets to the lungs, like you just mentioned, it goes to your nose, goes to your lungs, then it goes to your bloodstream, and then it resides into your gut. And so what happens and how can we get rid of this, right? And so these experiences, this is mast cell activation syndrome. Again, this is where this inflammatory cascade starts. So these white blood cells, which are supposed to help your immune system, they're now fighting against, and they're actually causing this whole autoimmunity. And this is where the idea of autoimmune conditions stem from. So right now, and it's literally said 1 in 5 people, before it used to be 1 in 17. The new research says 1 in 5 people have this histamine chronic response. So from the food that you're eating, from the environment that you're exposed to, how do we protect ourselves? Well, you think about a low histamine food. Avocado's not one of them. It's one of the highest histamine
What
foods.
is a low histamine food?
So low histamine foods are, first of all, you don't want to have beef that has been aged. Anything that's aged, anything that's stored, any leftover food grows histamine on it. So like if you have leftovers, for example.
You don't eat leftovers, I bet.
Don't eat leftovers.
I eat them all the time, man.
Yeah, I do it the second day. I'll do it one day, but 2 days, 3 days, it's see you later. Yeah, you're asking for a histamine storm.
Okay.
And you try to, and when you want to try to get your mitochondria, you want to live, you want to start taking less medicines or less drugs, you want to try to control histamines where you can. But there are instances where people can't control histamines, and that's where we have drugs and natural
Antihistamines, yeah.
Antihistamines. We talked about this, Pepsid, Claritin. These are H2, H1 blockers, which block 2 out of the 3 major histamines. So if you're consuming avocado, and then you have to take a drug in order to eat the avocado, is it worth eating the avocado?
No.
I got all this from avocado. I'm looking at this. I got all this from avocado. I am doomed. Guys, you're amazing. I want you guys to stick around for the next episode of the Homes on Homes podcast with Dr. Mike and Dr. Vic. And that's going to be all about what we can add into this, we'll call it the bag, to help these things that we've just talked about. You guys got to come back. Thank you, Dr. Vic. If you like the show, check out the episode page on makeitright.ca for more tips. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.